Okay, I have to confess something. When I got a divorce, there came a point where I became absolutely convinced that my attorney was wrong, that the judge was wrong, that the legal system is broken. And and I hope this doesn't happen to you, but I think it might. You're going to have this moment where you're like, I'm the only sane person left in this circus. So, regardless of what my attorney says, I want to fire off this email. I'm going to text my ex. I'm going to go post something crazy on Facebook. Your brain says, forget it. I'm just going to handle this myself. And then you know what happens? You have just made your divorce 10 times more expensive. So today we're talking about why reasonably smart people make really dumb decisions during their divorce. And we're going to help you stop yourself before you blow up your case, add a whole bunch of zeros to your bottom line on this episode of How Not to Suck at Divorce. If you're going through a divorce or you're thinking about getting a divorce, then this is the podcast for you. We give you the unpopular opinions no one else is talking about that will save you thousands of dollars on your divorce. Hosted by Morgan Stogsdill, the head of family law at the largest family law firm in the country, and comedian Andrea Rappaport. We're going to hold your hand, we're going to help your heart, and you will avoid the biggest divorce mistakes. This is How Not to Suck at Divorce. Our guest today has probably watched more people blow up their own divorce more than anyone else you ever want to meet. Today, we are talking with Daniel Bloom. He is an Atlanta-based family law attorney who has practiced exclusively in family law for decades and does a ton of guardian ad litem work, meaning he has seen just about every angle of wacky divorces imaginable.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Daniel, Dan, what would you prefer?
Anything but Danny. Usually Dan. Daniel, if you're mad at me, but anything but Danny, please.
When I would call you Danny, what would happen?
Well, the only two people who've been allowed to call me Danny are my cantor, who taught me my bar mitzvah growing up, and one now retired domestic relations attorney in Atlanta who said it just to piss me off, and I just played along with him. Otherwise, it really doesn't happen.
All right, Danny, let's go. Just kidding. Just kidding. So before I hop in and I have some questions for you, I just want to make sure that if you are a new listener to this podcast and you're wondering what the hell is a guardian ad litem and what are we talking about, I want you to know that it really depends on where you are jurisdiction-wise, what happens in the place that you're living. But basically what we're talking about is a protector, for lack of a better term, of the children. Somebody who is tasked with being potentially, where I practice, the eyes and ears of the court. Somebody who's investigating what's going on and what's in the best interests of the children. He has a lot of experience with children-related issues. That's why we wanted him to come on this podcast. So that makes him the perfect person to answer today's question. Why do otherwise smart people make spectacularly bad decisions during divorce, and what can they do instead?
Divorce in general, I think, defines the battle of the emotional versus the intellectual, right? Intellectually, you kind of have an idea of what it looks like, but then emotions take over because everything that happened that led up to this point is valid, it's real, it matters. But by the time you get to court, and hopefully you don't get to court, but decisions get made based on like 1% of the factors that actually brought you to that point. But you're at rock bottom when you get there, right? And especially if you have somebody like me involved as a guardian, you're having a complete stranger come into your life to help you figure out what to happen with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's at their worst. Nobody is making decisions that are not influenced by their valid and legitimate emotions. And our job is to get in there and say, okay, let's separate those two. Let's not make really stupid fucking decisions that impact your ability to co-parent with your spouse, that are going to come back to bite you with your kids. I and the attorneys get to leave this mess when it's all over with. Y'all don't. Right. So let's just figure out a way to make this work and compartmentalize our emotions in a way that still allows you to have them and to feel them, but that doesn't impact the way you operate on a daily basis.
One of the things that I think about is what would I be like if I was a client instead of the divorce attorney here? And we all know it's cliche, divorce is emotional. We can say that all we want. But the reality is, what would really drive me crazy, just knowing myself because I'm such an A type personality, I'm one of those people that likes to make the list. I like to check off the list once it's checked.
No.
Are you trying to make fun of me when I'm having a
Color me
moment?
shocked over here.
Yes, I am a type A personality and I'm proud of it. And I know myself, and I know that I like to check things off the boxes, and then I don't want to think about it again. And I want things done when I want things done. And the
Mhm.
problem with divorce is that it's not how it works. The waiting is awful. You people think that when they file for divorce, it's like fireworks go off and now you're off to the races. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of silence, there's a lot of waiting. And when you have silence in a divorce, you don't have silence in your head, you have silence in maybe the legal system, right? So silence feels like nothing is happening. And
Mhm.
people, especially like me, feel like they need to do something. So tell us, Dan, during this time when there's more silence than there is action, what's happening behind the scenes that clients don't see? What's going on?
Whenever I'm introducing myself to clients and my role, I address that very issue. I'll say, look, there'll be times that you're thinking, what the fuck is Dan doing? Why isn't he jumping in on this? Because there are other times that I'm responding to an email within 15 minutes. But part of it is, like I said a few minutes ago, we get to leave this when it's all over with, and they don't. So if every time an issue pops up, I jump in and say, here's how I think this should get resolved, or what about this, or what about this? I don't get to see how parents are behaving in the wild. So a lot of times what I tell people is not a lot of times, I always tell people, if you feel like nothing's getting done or you're not, that doesn't mean I'm not active. It just means I am observing so I can see if an issue pops up about how your kid's going to get to soccer or about who's going to buy shit for school. Uh, If I jump in and say, you're going to do it or you're going to do it or you're going to take, I don't know what's going to happen when I'm out. So I want to make sure that I see how people are going to behave and interact without somebody jumping in all the time to tell them what to do.
Dan, I think that's such an important distinction because I think there's this misconception when clients have a guardian or a child's rep or somebody appointed to their case, either by agreement or by a court, to talk about what's the best interest of the children. What they think in their head is, oh, here we are. We've got effectively a savior, a judge that's coming on that's just going to call balls and strikes. But what Dan just said is exactly it. They're there to observe. They're not going to call balls and strikes on every little issue.
Right.
They're trying to figure out, can you effectively co-parent with the other parent or solve these issues on their own? Because if not, that's where Dan's stepping in to say, hey, this might not work long term.
And what you guys haven't mentioned is how long it takes to get anything done if it's not an emergency. If there's a court date set and our minds, the people who are going through this, were like, so when's that going to happen on Thursday? And you're like,
Right.
actually, that's going to
Yeah.
happen on August 17th. And you're like, bitch, it's February.
And if it's February and it's happening on August 17th, oh, that's pretty quick. Right.
Okay,
So,
that made me want to throw up. Like,
but what people is depending on the judge, and depending on how it works, you never know. I mean, we have cases that we need to get stuff done for a couple of, waiting for a couple of years. And to your point of what's an emergency, very little is an emergency to the court.
right.
Right.
That's huge. Okay. And everybody just hang on, hold on. Everything as a parent feels like an emergency. And not only as a parent, let's just talk about anything in a divorce. Anything bad that happens that threatens our sense of security, right? That threatens our sense of, are things okay in my life right now? If we check
Mhm.
the no box, our brain automatically lights up and tells us, run, bear in the woods, there's an emergency. The court doesn't see it that way. And Dan, Morgan, with all due respect, we do not give a fuck about what's happening behind the scenes. We just don't, because we care about what's happening in our hearts and in our brains. And that's why we need to have this conversation, because what happens is we become completely controlled by
Mhm.
our racing thoughts, by our emotions.
One of the things I tell clients about an emergency, because I agree, when it's your life, everything's an emergency. There may actually be an emergency one day that a court would consider an emergency. And if you have a lawyer who titles every request an emergency, When the judge sees it come across their desk, they're going to go, this is not a fucking emergency because that lawyer says everything's an emergency. So I've been
Yeah.
practicing for 30 something years and I've filed less than 10 emergencies, right? And because of that, if I tell a judge it's an emergency, I get an emergency hearing because they know I'm not bullshitting them. So it's important to let a client know that your lawyer is using their discretion in what to call an emergency. And that, if there really is an emergency, is going to help you in the long run. So,
That stat is staggering to me.
yeah,
I cannot believe that you've only filed 10
yeah, y-
emergencies in that
yes,
amount of time.
yes. I mean, it just, but because I want a judge to believe me. I mean, first of all, none of us want to lose, right? But
Right.
I also want a judge, if I throw something out there and I throw it out for a client 3 months earlier, but I know it's bullshit, right?
Mhm.
My next client is going to suffer because of that. Because all we have is our reputation before a judge. And so we have to be really careful about that because if we ruin our reputation, that affects every subsequent client we have, and their children. So we have to be really careful about that. You know,
And I want to talk about the hidden cost of going rogue because
yeah,
I get it. I get that maybe you don't like the advice that I've given you because it doesn't move as fast as you want it to. Or
right,
maybe you just want what you really want, or you don't think your attorney is really kind of dialed into how big of a deal it is. And so then you go and you do it. And then it lands back in the attorney's plate to figure out how to fix everything or make it look less
mm,
problematic.
right,
But what you're buying yourself, there's hidden costs. You have to think, and this is my theme of the episode. You can't think in a vacuum. You've got to
right.
think long term. This is a long term play. We always say, Andrea and I always say at the end of every episode that divorce is a marathon. It is not a sprint. When
Okay,
you are thinking about every little thing we're talking about, we are thinking about how does it fit into the marathon. So if you go rogue, what's the hidden cost? One, a lot of costs out of your pocket, probably extra motions, maybe emergency hearings or at least attempted emergency hearings. I've had clients on the other side do crazy things and get sanctioned by the judge
right.
monetarily. Attorney's fees skyrocket. And don't forget that you might win something right away, but long term you could lose or lose your credibility based upon going rogue.
Right.
But help me wrap my arms around this. What does going rogue actually look like?
I'll give you a recent example. If I'm representing a client and there's a guardian involved, and there is a request from another parent, the other parent regarding wanting some parenting time, right?
Mhm.
And the allegation is out there that your client is somehow restrictive in how they are allowing the other parent to see the child. But your client, in response to a request, wants to send an email back, wants you to send an email back and you look at it and you go, there's no fucking way I'm sending that email back, right? That is going to come back to bite you. There's a guardian involved. It's not going to happen. You need to trust me on this. I've been doing this a long time. To your point, Morgan, let's not win the battle and give away the war, right? This is
Yeah.
a long term issue. The client, who I was fine, she fired me and found a lawyer who would send the email. The email was sent. The next day, an emergency motion was filed by the other side with the exact email that I refused to send attached to it. And things have gone very, very south for that former client since then, right?
How much money? If you were to guess, give me a price tag.
Oh, I have no idea because she owes me money, but she
Nah.
probably
What's
has
her
spent,
name? We'll tag her. I'm just kidding.
she's probably spent an extra $30,000 based on some bullshit.
Okay,
Easy,
so
easy.
$30,000, you guys, not to mention,
Right,
we're talking about her life and
right,
kids. Like,
right.
money is one thing, and 30 grand ain't no joke. First of all, I love how many metaphors we're talking about throwing balls and strikes. We're talking about battles and wars. Like, what has this episode turned
And
into?
there's even things that don't have financial. I mean, to your point, Morgan, earlier, when clients say, I just want to have sex with somebody. I just want to date somebody. I'm like, we're in the bottom of the ninth. There may be no legal ramification to it, but the emotional cost, it's going to cost you money. It's going to delay settlement. Just keep it in your pants for like another 3 weeks.
God,
Impossible.
that's what I
Impossible.
tell Morgan every day. Morgan, keep it in your pants. She's dying.
Well, the other thing that I want to say too, to your point, is the fact that clients get impatient and they make these decisions. And good lawyers have a strategy. They have a theme to your case, right? So they've got this whole theme of like, how am I
Right,
going to show my
right.
client's the good guy? The other client is the bad guy. And we always talk, Dan, on our podcast about Chad and Brenda.
It's Chad and
Brenda.
So let's put it into Chad and Brenda terms. Okay. I represent Brenda. Brenda's pretty good. Chad is off the rails. And I plan to show that Chad's off the rails. But then
Poor
Brenda gets
Chad.
poor Chad. But Brenda gets impatient, can't wait for what I'm doing because it takes time, and goes and does something rogue. Let's say she emails Chad's employer and says Chad's a complete lunatic and did X, Y, and Z to
A
me.
really wise move.
Super
Sounds
wise move,
smart.
right?
Good job, Brenda.
So now what happens when let's just say we have to go to a trial. Brenda had an awesome case going to trial. My theme was on point. Brenda looks so good. And then she sends this email and just completely blows up her entire case.
Mhm.
She looks like, with that one email, the complete lunatic. Now we're dead in the water.
Yeah. I mean, I say if the other party is behaving like a lunatic, let it happen. Do not meet them. Do not meet them. Send that email to me, your lawyer. However, send it to me and it will go in a file.
Coming from someone who lived this, and I cannot stress this enough, I hear my friends, our dear listeners, I know how hard it is to let someone hang themselves. You don't, I heard that so many times. Andrea, sit back and let it happen. They're going to
Mhm.
hang themselves. And
Right.
you're like, but, and it doesn't even have to be as bold as Brenda sending an email to Chad's employee. It could be something minor
Yes.
like your attorney could say, Brenda, do not email Chad again about this.
Correct.
Stop emailing Chad.
Glue your thumbs to your palms and get off your phone now.
And then Brenda has one extra espresso martini, and
Mhm.
she's like, guess what, motherfucker? Boop, 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 boop.
Mhm.
It sets everything off. You've
Yeah.
added so many zeros to your case because of something that you just think is like funny or benign or snarky
Yeah.
just to rub someone the wrong way. So we, the people, need some help.
Maybe I'm the fucking problem. Nah, that didn't even sound right.
Morgan, Dan, give us some action steps. What do we do differently when our hearts and our brains want to go scorched earth rogue?
I'm going to teach we the people something in my mind, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dan because I have one thing that I want you to think about. When you want to go rogue, and this is something you wouldn't know, I want you to step back for a moment. I want you to take 24 hours. I want you to get a call with your lawyer, because what I want you to do is I want you to say, hey, hypothetically, if I were to not take your advice and I were to do what I want to do, how would that affect my case long term? Because that's where nobody's thinking about, is the long term. And we're going back to the metaphors, the war. How does that affect the war? I know how it'll affect the battle. I might
Mhm.
win right away. But what does that do? And then you decide whether that risk is worth it. That's the number one thing I would ask. Dan, what do you have?
So first, get a really good therapist, because I'm a pretty good counselor at law, and my background's in therapy, but I'm a lot more expensive than a good therapist. Right. So if you're having those issues, I tag team with therapists all the time. Let's get on a call with your therapist and figure out where we can put this emotion in a way that's not going to sabotage your
Yep.
case.
Now it's getting kinky.
Well, I mean, depending on how attractive the therapist is.
Listen, I'm tag teaming a therapist is just okay, but I love where this is going, because this is what's so important. We have to have enough accountability to see I need some emotional support.
Well,
And this is not just a legal thing. This is a me hurting thing, which is totally allowed.
But and it's real. And we're attorneys and counselors at law. So when I talk to people, so I'm like, look, I am now using my counselor at law education and not my attorney at law education, because I've been there. I was a magistrate judge in the family court for 5 years. I see how this shit goes down, right? Just trust me. The other thing I suggest is, look, there are a bunch of good attorneys. There are a lot of bad attorneys, but there's some other good attorneys. Go buy an hour of their time and see what their opinion is on this, because you know what? You and I may not be a good match, and that is completely and totally fine, right? But go get an opinion from someone else, and if that seems to fit better with you, we can talk about it, and maybe there is a road that works better for you, because I may not always be right. So consult with somebody else. There's nothing, I get lawyers who call me all the time and say, hey, I have a client who, you know, he or she is not really sure about what's going on, or they're working with a guardian and they're not really comfortable with the advice I'm giving or how it's going. Put together a team. so that you have a team of support during this process because it's fucking brutal. I understand people wanting to go rogue. When look, I'm happily married with 2 kids who are going to be 20 next month. I still want to go rogue sometimes. I mean, so I get it, but you are dealing with the rest of your kids' lives in this process, and you can't fuck that up.
Morgan, what are your thoughts on going and getting a consultation with somebody else? I saw you had like a reaction. I think that you're aligned.
I would say I'm aligned. I'm actually kind of shocked that Dan actually says that to clients because, from a lawyer's perspective, I know lawyers are concerned about losing a client, but also from my perspective, I also fire clients as well. And
Yes.
I agree with you, Dan. What I what I try to do is find a good personality fit, right? And if
Right.
it's not, it could be just a personality problem. It could be that they just don't understand how you're communicating or how I'm communicating. But most of the time, when I have people come to me from other lawyers and they're upset about something, rarely am I like, oh, yeah, that lawyer messed up. I most of the time, I'm like, yeah, you've got a bad judge. The facts are what they are. You're unreasonable, whatever it is.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of impressed that you say that. At times, I'm quicker to say, this isn't a good fit. Go find another lawyer rather than go interview somebody.
When people come to me for a second opinion, it has to be pretty egregious for me to say to somebody, "Oh yeah, you need to jump ship." And my typical response, assuming is like, "Look, this is hard. There is no perfect answer all the time."
So I want to recap these action steps. So, number one, no. It's a hard no. It's a no from me, dog. For 24 hours, you will do nothing. You got to stop. You are not going to make a good decision when you are keyed up. We say this to you on every single episode. If
Mhm.
you are feeling more than you are thinking, that is a good indication that you need to stop. Do nothing. The first thing that Dan mentioned is you might need some therapy. You might
Right.
need some emotional attention. And I'm going to take out the might. You probably do.
Yeah.
If you are having that trigger inside of your body that's saying, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, we probably deserve to have somebody who can really help support you mentally and emotionally here. And they're going to come at a much lower price than your attorney. And your attorney is not a licensed therapist. And then lastly, if you are really feeling like your case is not going in the direction that you feel like it should be going, you have the right to have a consultation with somebody else. And when you have that consultation, we actually have guides that we sell on our website about this. We give you the questions that you should ask them. You give them all the facts and you say, knowing this, would you have a different strategy? What would the strategy be? You might find that there's not another strategy. I mean, I can tell you guys, I went through this in my divorce where I had a moment where I'm like, God, what the fuck?
Right.
And I had another call and it was, Andrea, this just sucks. It
Mhm.
is what it is, but nothing is going to change. And that sucks to hear. But wouldn't you rather get that information than take matters into your own hands and make things a whole lot worse? I think so. Before we wrap this conversation, I want to play a little game if you guys are up for it, because this conversation has been so boring and you have no personality, Dan. But I want to do a little lightning round.
Oh God.
So I want you guys to complete the sentence. First thing that comes to mind. And Morgan, it can't always be about sex with you, okay? I immediately know a client is about to make a bad decision when, what, Morgan?
Every email that I send telling them what I recommend, they fight me on the way back. Every response is a fight.
Okay, Dan, you immediately know a client is about to make a bad decision when.
She sends me a friend request on Facebook.
Oh my God, I love that. Okay, the email subject line I never want to see is.
I'm in jail.
Dan, the email subject line I never want to see is.
Govern yourself accordingly.
Govern yourself.
What does that
I
even
don't know what that
mean?
means.
It means do what I say, behave, or when there is a deadline. Because if you give me a deadline and a subject matter line, I'm going to miss it.
Oh,
Right.
yikes.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got two more. Morgan, one thing every divorcing person should never text their ex.
I don't care what the judge says.
Oh, okay. Dan, one thing I know where this is going to go and I can't wait. Dan, one thing every divorcing person should never text their ex.
Anything about their penis size.
And that, my friends, is all the time we have for today. Okay, last one. Biggest myth about divorce.
It's going to be fast and easy.
God, are we talking about penis sizes again or
I hope not.
Dan, biggest myth about divorce?
That you have to stop caring about your spouse during the process.
Ooh, that took a whole different turn that I was not expecting. That one really gave me some food for thought. I think we're going to need a follow-up conversation on that. Daniel, never Danny Bloom, thank you so much for having this conversation with us today. I hope and I know that we just saved people a whole lot of money. And we, the people, are forever grateful. The biggest thing that I keep thinking about here is how hard this information is to apply. And that's again where I wish like one day we are going to have a magic wand that we create and make it easier for people to take our advice. Because I think intellectually everybody gets it. And I'm sure everybody's sitting there nodding their heads in their car while they're driving to work. But I just want to validate it is really tough to apply what we said because you want so badly to have something happen so quickly.
I couldn't agree more. And it is frustrating. It's frustrating for us too. Remember this, and not that it matters, but lawyers want to do good by their clients. They want to do well for you. So it's frustrating for you when we see that you're frustrated at the process or the timing and our hands are tied. And so the only thing at times we can do is manage the clients a little bit better, more conversations, et cetera. But ultimately, there are people out there that just can't get through it without going rogue. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
I want to let everybody know that we have a brand new free guide for everybody. So we want to help you avoid really big divorce mistakes like you know, and that's exactly why we created the Divorce Crash Course. But if you need some information that's maybe going to help you understand, do I even need the Divorce Crash Course? What are these areas where I could be really fucking things up? I want you to go to our website. You will see a place where you can get a free guide that is going to help you frame your mind and see some areas where you could use some more support. So go to our website for that direct link in our show notes.
And if you need more support, we have the free online community through Facebook. We're on all the socials. Reach out to us. We respond. And remember this, that divorce is a marathon. It is not a sprint. Every day is not going to be a good day. We understand that. Some days it's day by day and others it's hour by hour. But the fact of the matter is you're in the process, you're going through it, the train has left the station, and in a few years, you are going to be fantastic.
Listen to all of these episodes. This is why we do the show. Go through our library. We have so many episodes that are going to help you no matter where you're at. Post questions in the private community. I know that your arms are tired from doggy paddling. You got to keep swimming. You will get to the other side of this thing. And if you listen to your attorney, you will get to the other side of this thing for a whole lot less money and with a lot fewer Band-Aids. I know that you can do this. I know that you can do this. My friends, you have got this.
And we have got you.
The How Not to Suck at Divorce podcast shall not be copied or rebroadcast without consent. This podcast does not contain legal advice. The information heard in this podcast shall not and should not be used as legal advice.